Jack trudged through the crowded streets of the diplomatic quarter, weaving between diplomats, tourists, and vendors. The area was a bustling hub where humanity mingled with alien representatives. Jack, an engineer with a knack for gadgets, rarely visited this part of the city, but today's tech expo had drawn him out of his workshop. As he turned a corner, a commotion caught his attention. A small crowd had gathered around a smoking object partially embedded in the pavement. Curiosity piqued. Jack nudged his way forward for a closer look. It was a small craft, unlike any design he'd seen. A sleek, metallic surface marred by scorch marks and dents. "Must have come down hard," muttered a man next to him, who Jack noticed wore the uniform of Earth security. "Do you think it's alien?" Jack asked, his gaze fixed on the craft. "Definitely. We've got a team on the way. Stand back, folks," the officer announced, but his order was more curious than authoritative. Ignoring the warning, Jack edged closer to the craft. A faint moaning sound from inside made his heart race. Without a second thought, he approached the hatch. It was slightly ajar, hissing with escaping air. "Hey, you shouldn't," the officer began, but Jack was already prying the hatch open with a nearby piece of debris. Inside, amidst blinking consoles and alien script, lay a figure. She was smaller than most humans, with delicate, scaled skin that shimmered under the emergency lights. Her breaths were shallow, and her lower body was pinned under a collapsed panel. "I need help here," Jack shouted back to the officer, who reluctantly joined him by the craft. Together, they managed to lift the panel enough to free her. The alien girl moaned in pain, her bright eyes fluttering open to meet Jack's. "It's okay, we're going to help you," Jack reassured her, though he knew she might not understand him. With the officer's help, Jack gently lifted the girl out of the wreckage. They carried her to a clearer area just as the emergency medical team arrived. "What's your name?" Jack asked, looking down at the girl as they set her on a makeshift stretcher. "Lyria," she whispered, her voice carrying a musical quality. Jack nodded. "I'm Jack. You're safe now, Lyria." The medical team quickly assessed her condition. "We need to move her to a medical facility," one paramedic decided, looking up at Jack and the officer. "I'll go with her," Jack said instantly. He felt a responsibility for Lyria, a drive to ensure her safety. The officer clapped Jack on the shoulder. "I'll handle things here. Good luck, kid." As the ambulance sped towards the hospital, Jack sat beside Lyria, watching her struggle with each breath. "Don't worry, you're going to be okay," he said, taking her hand in his. Lyria squeezed it lightly, her eyes conveying gratitude despite the obvious pain. At the hospital, as doctors rushed around, Jack stayed by Lyria's side. He was her only familiar presence in a strange world. As she was wheeled into the emergency room, Jack promised, "I'll be right here when you get out." Left in the waiting area, Jack mulled over the day's events. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was the beginning of something bigger than him, something that might change his life forever. The hospital's sterile, buzzing environment faded into the background as Jack replayed the morning's events in his mind. Waiting anxiously for any news on Lyria's condition, he couldn't help but feel a bond forming with the alien girl. It was something beyond curiosity or sympathy. It felt like a mission he couldn't turn away from. Hours later, a doctor emerged, her expression guarded, yet gentle. "She's stable," she announced, her gaze fixed on Jack. "But her recovery will be complicated. She's not used to our atmosphere or gravity, and it appears she has pre-existing conditions related to her species' physiology." "Can I see her?" Jack asked, his concern deepening. "Yes, but she's still under sedation. It might be a while before she wakes up." The doctor gestured for him to follow. As they approached Lyria's room, Jack steeled himself. Through the glass, he saw her lying quietly, her breathing assisted by machines. Entering quietly, he took a seat by her bed, watching her alien features softened by sleep. When Lyria finally stirred, her eyes fluttered open, confusion and fear evident. Seeing Jack, her expression softened slightly. "Jack?" Her voice was a whisper, strained but unmistakable. "Yeah, it's me. You're in a hospital on Earth. You're safe," he reassured her, offering a smile. Lyria looked around, taking in her surroundings with evident unease. "I can't stay here," she murmured. "If they find out where I am." "Who's they?" Jack's brow furrowed. "My people. They don't treat the disabled well. I wasn't supposed to survive." Lyria's voice was tinged with sadness. Jack's heart clenched. "You're safe here with me. I won't let anyone hurt you," he vowed. Over the next few days, Jack made arrangements to move Lyria from the hospital to his apartment, utilizing his clearance as an engineer to modify his home into a suitable healing environment for her. His apartment, usually cluttered with gadgets and engineering projects, transformed into a makeshift sanctuary. As Lyria regained her strength, their conversations deepened. Jack learned about Zelath, her home planet, where the harsh environments and societal norms rendered the disabled invisible, or worse, expendable. Lyria's family had hidden her away for years, fearing for her life. "Why did you come to Earth?" Jack asked one evening, as they shared a simple meal he had prepared. "I wanted to prove that I could contribute, that I wasn't useless. I thought if I could just show them." Lyria's voice trailed off, her eyes distant. "You're not useless, Lyria. You're incredible," Jack said firmly, his mind racing with ideas. "I think I can help you, more than just hiding you here." "What do you mean?" Lyria looked at him, intrigue sparking in her eyes. "I'm an engineer. I build things. Maybe I can build something to help you. To move. To be more independent." Jack's voice was filled with a newfound purpose. Lyria's eyes widened, a mix of hope and hesitation playing across her face. "Do you really think that's possible?" "I know it is. We'll work on it together," Jack promised. And so, their journey began. Jack's apartment turned into a workshop and a home for Lyria. Night after night, they worked on designs and prototypes, each failure bringing a lesson and each success a shared triumph. Their bond deepened, rooted in shared secrets and a mutual determination to defy the odds. Jack's workshop was alive with the hum of machinery and the soft glow of computer screens displaying complex blueprints. The room, once a chaotic space filled with half-finished projects, had transformed into a focused studio dedicated to one purpose: building an exoskeleton that would allow Lyria to walk. "Okay, Lyria, let's try this one more time," Jack said, adjusting a lightweight frame designed to fit around her slender, scaled limbs. The prototype was sleek, made of composite materials that Jack had sourced through his contacts in the aerospace industry. Lyria positioned herself on the support harness Jack had rigged up. It allowed her to test the exoskeleton without the risk of falling. She looked determined, but nervous, her eyes fixed on her own legs. "I've recalibrated the motion sensors and increased the responsiveness of the knee joints," Jack explained as he helped her secure the limb attachments. "It should feel more natural now." Lyria nodded, taking a deep breath. "Okay, I'm ready." Jack stepped back, his hand hovering over the control tablet. As he activated the system, the exoskeleton whirred softly to life. Lyria tentatively shifted her weight, and the mechanical legs mimicked her movements, more smoothly than in any of their previous tests. "It's working, Jack," Lyria exclaimed, a broad smile spreading across her face as she took a tentative step forward. The exoskeleton supported her weight, moving fluidly with her. Jack couldn't help but grin, pride swelling in his chest. "You're doing great, Lyria. How does it feel?" "It feels amazing," she replied, taking another step, then another. Her voice was filled with wonder and a hint of disbelief. "I never thought I'd be able to walk like this." As Lyria continued to experiment with walking, Jack observed and made notes on a digital pad. He noted every nuance in her movement, ready to make further adjustments. After a while, they took a break, Lyria returning to her chair, her cheeks flushed with excitement and exertion. Jack wheeled over a small table with 2 cups of tea. "This is just the beginning," Jack said, handing her a cup. "We can refine it further, make it more comfortable, more intuitive." Lyria held the cup with both hands, her gaze thoughtful. "Jack, this changes everything, not just for me, but potentially for many others on Zelath. If they see what can be done—" Jack nodded, the weight of their potential breakthrough dawning on him. "We'll need to think about how to present this. It could stir some trouble, you know, with the authorities here and on your planet." Lyria's expression hardened with resolve. "I know, but we can't hide forever. If there's a chance this can make a difference, we have to take it." "That's the spirit," Jack said with a supportive smile. "And I'll be with you every step of the way." Over the following weeks, Jack and Lyria continued their work with a renewed sense of purpose. Each test brought Lyria closer to seamless movement, and each iteration of the exoskeleton became more advanced. Jack found himself more invested than ever, driven not just by the technical challenge, but by the desire to see Lyria succeed, to see her reclaim her autonomy and, perhaps, one day, change her world. Their collaboration turned the workshop into a place of hope and potential, a stark contrast to the isolation and despair Lyria had experienced before. Together, they were not just building a device. They were crafting a future. As the weeks turned into months, the workshop had become a second home to both Jack and Lyria. The exoskeleton, now in its fourth iteration, was more than a medical device. It was a symbol of what could be achieved when two determined minds from different worlds collaborated. One evening, as they sat surrounded by scattered tools and digital screens glowing with design improvements, Lyria turned to Jack with a serious expression. "Jack, I've been thinking. We need to talk about what comes next. We've created something amazing here, but it's time we consider the bigger picture." Jack nodded, setting aside his tablet. "I agree. We've proven the technology works. It's time to think about how we can introduce it to the world. Your world and mine." "There's something else," Lyria added, pausing as she gathered her thoughts. "I haven't been entirely honest with you about how I ended up here on Earth. It wasn't just an accident or a desperate escape. I was sent away because my presence became inconvenient." Jack leaned in, concern etching his features. "What do you mean?" "In my society, those who are disabled are often hidden away, as you know. But it's more than just being hidden. We're seen as a burden, a bad omen. My family was part of a faction that wanted to change these views. When they couldn't hide me anymore, sending me away to Earth was the only way to keep me safe from being..." Lyria trailed off, the weight of her memories pressing down on her. Jack reached out, taking her hand. "You're safe here, Lyria. And we're going to show everyone, not just your people, but everyone, that being different isn't a weakness. It's a strength." Lyria squeezed his hand, grateful for his support. "I want to go public. I want to show my people what I can do now, thanks to you. Maybe then they'll see that what we consider disabilities don't define our worth." Jack smiled, inspired by her courage. "Let's do it. Let's plan a demonstration. We can invite representatives from both Earth and Zelath. Show them what you've achieved." They spent the next few days planning the event. They decided on a public park as the venue, a place frequented by both humans and aliens, symbolizing the unity they hoped to foster. Jack contacted a few trusted colleagues and media connections, pitching the story of a breakthrough in assistive technology designed by a human and an alien working together. The day of the demonstration arrived. The park was bustling with people, reporters, and a few discreetly placed security agents. Jack and Lyria stood backstage, the exoskeleton fully activated and hidden beneath a long, flowing robe Lyria had chosen for the occasion. "Are you ready for this?" Jack asked, adjusting a microphone on Lyria's collar. Lyria nodded, her eyes bright with determination. "More than ever." They stepped onto the stage, greeted by the curious murmurs of the crowd. Jack gave a brief introduction, explaining their work and its implications. Then, it was Lyria's turn. With the crowd watching, Lyria removed her robe, revealing the sleek, metallic exoskeleton. There was a collective gasp as she began to walk across the stage, each step smooth and confident. "My name is Lyria," she began, her voice clear and strong. "I was told I would never walk, that I would never contribute to society. Today I stand before you not just as a testament to human ingenuity, but as proof that the potential within us is not defined by our physical limitations, but by our spirit and our resolve." The crowd erupted in applause, many standing in ovation. Jack watched, his heart full of pride. Together, they had not only changed Lyria's life, but perhaps had started a movement that could change many more. The aftermath of the demonstration was a whirlwind of media coverage and public discourse. Lyria had become the face of potential change, her story resonating with many across Earth and even reaching the distant ears of her home planet, Zelath. However, not all attention was positive. The showcase had stirred more than just admiration. It had ignited controversy and fear among some human and Zelath factions. Jack and Lyria spent the days following the event in a cautious bubble, aware that their actions had possibly attracted the wrong kind of attention. Their fears were confirmed when Jack's apartment was suddenly raided one evening by Earth security forces, acting on undisclosed concerns about alien technology and espionage. "Search everything," barked the lead officer as his team stormed through Jack's workshop, dismantling his work and confiscating the exoskeleton. Jack stood protectively in front of Lyria, his mind racing for a solution. "This is a medical device, not a weapon. You have no right." "Everything alien must be vetted for security risks," the officer interrupted sternly, not meeting his gaze. "You're coming with us for further questioning, both of you." With no time to argue and little chance of reasoning with the officers, Jack whispered to Lyria, We need to get out of here. As the officers were momentarily distracted, organizing the seized equipment, Jack pulled Lyria towards a back door he had installed precisely for an emergency escape. With the exoskeleton confiscated, Lyria struggled to keep up, her determination palpable. Once outside, Jack and Lyria moved quickly through the dark alleys of the city. Jack's heart pounded not just from the physical exertion, but also from fear and anger. They needed a safe place, and he knew just the contact who could help. Reaching a nondescript building, Jack knocked in a specific pattern. Moments later, the door opened a crack, and an eye peeked out. Recognizing Jack, the door swung open wider. "Jack, what on earth?" the man began. "No time, Dave. We need a place to lay low. Can you help?" Jack interrupted urgently. Without a word, Dave ushered them inside, glancing nervously up and down the street before closing the door. They were in a small safe house used by those who sympathized with aliens facing unjust treatment on Earth. While Lyria rested, Jack explained their situation to Dave, who was an old engineering school buddy now involved in rights activism. "We've got to get her another exoskeleton, or at least the parts. She can't be seen like this. It's too dangerous," Jack stated, his mind working through the logistics. Dave nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "I'll make some calls, see what I can scrounge up. You two lay low. The streets aren't safe anymore, especially for her." The next few days were tense as Jack and Lyria waited in the shadows of the safe house. Lyria, frustrated and frightened, felt the walls closing in on her. "Jack, I can't stay hidden forever. We need to think bigger." Jack agreed, his resolve hardening. "We'll find a way to get the message out, to prove to everyone that fear won't win. First, we get you mobile again. Then we tackle the bigger picture." Using Dave's contacts, they slowly gathered the necessary components. Under the cloak of secrecy, Jack began assembling a new exoskeleton. This time, it was not just about mobility, but about making a statement. Every piece of metal, every circuit he soldered was fueled by a mix of fear, anger, and hope, a hope that this was not the end of their journey, but just another beginning. With the new exoskeleton nearly functional, Jack and Lyria prepared for the next phase of their plan. Tensions were high as they realized the gravity of their decision to flee. Their temporary hideout, provided by Dave, had served its purpose, but staying in one place too long was risky. "We can't keep moving around the city with you looking like this. It's too dangerous," Jack said, adjusting the final components of the exoskeleton in the dim light of the safe house's workshop area. "Once this is done, we'll need to find a safer place, maybe off-planet." Lyria tested the range of motion in her new mechanical limbs, a mix of anxiety and anticipation in her eyes. "Where would we go? My people would find us anywhere in the galaxy," she pointed out, her voice tinged with fear. Jack stopped his work, looking up at her. "There are places less touched by your government's reach, and I have contacts who can help us disappear." The plan was set into motion swiftly. Jack contacted a smuggler he trusted, an old college friend who now specialized in discreet cargo transport. They arranged a rendezvous at a secluded airstrip outside the city. The risk was immense, but so were the stakes. As night fell, Jack and Lyria made their way to the meeting point. The city's skyline was a distant shadow against the stars, a stark reminder of the world they were leaving behind. The journey was fraught with tension, each shadow and sound magnifying their anxiety. At the airstrip, the smuggler, a gruff man named Harris, greeted them. "Got everything ready?" he asked, eyeing the exoskeleton with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Jack nodded, helping Lyria into the cargo hold of the small, unassuming ship. "It's now or never," he said, his hand lingering on hers for a moment longer than necessary, reinforcing their unspoken bond. The spacecraft's engines hummed to life, the sound a harsh contrast to the quiet of the surrounding area. As they ascended into the night sky, Lyria looked back through the small porthole at the receding Earth, her emotions a complex web of relief and sorrow. Their journey took them through the fringes of the solar system, avoiding common trade routes. Harris kept to the shadows of space, using old smuggler's tricks to evade detection. After days of tense travel, they arrived at a small, remote station on the edge of a neutral system. It was a place where many who sought to avoid the prying eyes of powerful governments found refuge. "We'll lay low here for a while," Harris explained as they docked. "It's quiet, off the main paths, and the folks here don't ask too many questions." Jack and Lyria disembarked, stepping into the bustling, ragtag colony. Here, amidst aliens of all shapes and sizes, they could blend in, two more faces in the crowd of those escaping their pasts. As they settled into this new, uncertain freedom, Jack looked at Lyria, her face lit by the light of a different sun. "We're not out of the woods yet, but we're together. That's got to count for something." Lyria nodded, her hand finding his. "Together," she echoed, her voice steady. "Let's see what the future holds." Jack and Lyria had barely started to acclimate to their new, obscure life on the edge of the neutral system when their past caught up with them. The peace of their makeshift sanctuary was shattered by the arrival of a Zealoth enforcement ship, a sleek vessel that cast a long shadow over the small colony. The news spread quickly among the inhabitants of the station. Many of them, with their own reasons to avoid official scrutiny, began to vanish into their bolt holes. But for Jack and Lyria, there was no deeper to hide. "We need a plan," Jack muttered as they watched the enforcement ship from the window of their cramped apartment. "If they're here, it means they've tracked us across the stars. Running further might not be an option this time." Lyria, her face set with determination, nodded. "We can't keep running. Maybe it's time to stand and fight, to make them see." Jack knew she was right. They had evaded and hidden, but the core issue remained unchanged. As long as Lyria was seen as a liability by her people, she would never be free. "All right," Jack said after a moment's thought. "Let's bring our case to the people. If we can sway public opinion, maybe we can change the minds of those in power." With the help of Harris and a few trusted allies, they set up a broadcast from the station's communications hub. They planned to tell their story to anyone who would listen, to show that Lyria was not a burden to her society, but a beacon of what could be achieved. As Lyria prepared her speech, Jack worked on rigging the broadcast system to send their signal as far and wide as possible. "This has to reach beyond this station, beyond this system. Everyone needs to see the truth." When the time came, Lyria stood in front of the camera, her exoskeleton visible, a testament to human ingenuity and her own unbreakable will. Jack stood off to the side, his hand on the switch, ready to broadcast their plea for understanding and peace. "Ladies and gentlemen of Zealoth and Earth," Lyria began, her voice steady despite the monumental stakes. "My name is Lyria. I was born with a condition that made me different, but not less. With the help of a human Jack, I have gained mobility and a new life. We ask for your understanding and your support. We are not your enemies. We seek only to live our lives in peace." Her words, sincere and powerful, resonated through the station and across the airwaves, reaching countless ears across multiple systems. As Lyria spoke, the Zealoth enforcers landed on the station. They moved toward the communications hub, their intentions clear. But instead of confrontation, they found themselves surrounded by station inhabitants, human and alien alike, who had heard Lyria's words and decided to stand with her. The lead enforcer, a stern-faced Zealoth named Commander Varric, entered the hub just as Lyria finished her speech. His gaze met Jack's, then Lyria's, and around at the crowd that had gathered. "You've caused quite a stir," Commander Varric said, his voice betraying no emotion. "But this is an internal matter for Zealoth." "It's a universal matter of rights and respect," Jack countered, stepping forward. "Lyria has shown what she and others like her can achieve if given a chance. Isn't that worth considering?" The standoff continued, tense and uncertain, until Commander Varric finally lowered his gaze, signaling his men to stand down. "Perhaps it is time we reassess our stance," he conceded, "but this will need to be discussed at the highest levels." As the enforcers retreated, the crowd erupted in cautious celebration. Jack and Lyria exchanged a look of relief mixed with disbelief. They had taken a stand, and for now, it had made a difference. "We've started something here today," Lyria said to Jack as they watched the enforcers depart. "Whatever comes next, we've shown that change is possible." Jack nodded, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "Together we did, and whatever comes next, we'll face it together." In the wake of their broadcast, the atmosphere on the station transformed. The standoff had not only highlighted Lyria's plight, but it also sparked a broader discussion about the treatment of the disabled within Zealoth society and beyond. The residents of the station, once wary and distant, now approached Jack and Lyria with new respect and camaraderie. As days turned into weeks, the impact of their plea for understanding echoed back in surprising ways. Messages of support and solidarity poured in from various corners of the galaxy, including from within Zealoth itself, where a growing movement questioned long-standing prejudices and policies. One afternoon, as Jack and Lyria were assisting Harris in the station's main market, a communication came through that would once again change the course of their lives. It was an official summons from the newly formed Zeleth Commission for Inclusion, inviting Lyria to participate as a spokesperson and consultant. Lyria read the message aloud, her voice trembling with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. They want to hear more about the exoskeleton technology, and they're discussing reforms based on our experience. Jack looked at her, a proud smile spreading across his face. You did it, Lyria. You're going to make a real difference. But only because of your help, Jack, Lyria responded, reaching for his hand. We did this together. As they prepared for their journey back to Zeleth, the mood among their friends at the station was bittersweet. Harris clapped Jack on the back, his eyes gleaming with unshed tears. You're doing good work, both of you. Don't be strangers now, you hear? The return to Zeloth was met with media fanfare unlike any before. Lyria, once a hidden shame of her family, was now being celebrated as a pioneer for change. The exoskeleton, once a secret project crafted in the shadows, was now viewed as a beacon of progress. Lyria's testimony before the commission was broadcasted planet-wide. With Jack by her side, she spoke not only of the technology that had changed her life, but also of the need for societal transformation. True strength, she declared, lies in our capacity to embrace and uplift every member of our society, regardless of their physical capabilities. The Commission's work led to new policies that gradually began to reshape how the disabled were treated across Zeloth. Educational programs, accessibility initiatives, and anti-discrimination laws were enacted, creating a ripple effect that promised a more inclusive future. Meanwhile, Earth watched and learned, its own policies influenced by the brave stand taken by a young alien and her human ally. Jack and Lyria continued to work together, now aided by official support, to refine and distribute the exoskeleton technology. Years later, standing together on a balcony overlooking the vibrant capital of Zeloth, Jack and Lyria reflected on the journey that had brought them there. The city below buzzed with life, a stark contrast to the silence of their early days in hiding. We've come a long way, Jack remarked, his arm around Lyria's shoulders. Yes, Lyria agreed, leaning into his embrace. And we still have a long way to go. But as long as we have each other, I believe we can face anything. Their journey had started with a crash, a rescue, and a shared dream. It had grown into a movement that crossed planets and changed lives. Together, they had altered the course of history, proving that even in the vast expanse of the galaxy, two determined hearts could make a world of difference.